Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about the watercolor basics. Say hi to everyone, Dad.
Hello, everyone.
So let's start with the watercolors themselves. What watercolors do you like to use, Dad?
Well, they're the student quality Winsor & Newton watercolors. Now, why student quality as opposed to artist quality? Well, generally speaking, we're looking at people starting out with watercolor. And if you start out with the artist quality, first of all, they're very expensive. To get a range of watercolors, say a 48 range of watercolors, it will cost you an arm and a leg. And they aren't easy to use either, generally speaking. So we go for the Winsor & Newton student quality, but they are adequate. I mean, later on, as you get more proficient, then you can move up to artist quality. I've got several tubes of paint which are artist quality. I don't use them when I'm using the videos, but I use them for my own private work. And they are good, but they do take a bit of understanding. They're more vibrant, for one thing. So you find if you mix the two together, you've been a spot of bother. So the student quality is the one that I use. Winsor & Newton student quality. That
range has a name. It's the Cotman range, isn't it? That's what Winsor & Newton label these student quality ones as Cotman.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes, and they are watercolor pans, as you mentioned there. You do have some tubes, and in some of the courses you do like to add some raw color from the tubes.
Yes, that's
every
right.
now and then.
Well, it's like backup, really. You know, the white particularly, I use a little bit of white with the, and that's the same Cotman student quality one, and I use that. So yes, that can be used. You just squeeze it into the palette, and it's more concentrated. That's the thing. The white in the pan is fine if you're mixing colours, but if you want a more positive white, then you can water it down just enough, so that you've got a much more concentrated white. That's why I use it like that.
So if students wanted to have all of the colours that they needed, then the Winsor & Newton Cotman range of 45 colours, as you say, very affordable range of watercolours there, would cover you. Now, if you wanted to throw in a couple of tubes as well, as you see throughout the courses, dipping into some raw white or lemon yellow from the tube, then you'll see that adds a little bit of pizzazz to the pictures as well. So let's move on to the watercolour paper that you use, Dad.
Well, that's easy because it's our own watercolour paper, and we spent some time developing this because I was insistent on not having the little dimples you get with watercolour. I found those quite irritating, to be honest. So I wanted a smoother paper, and the paper that we sell is absolutely perfect. It's a 300 gram, which means it's quite a thick paper, so it doesn't cockle as much. One of the problems that you have with watercolours, particularly if you're doing a sky or a large expanse of water, it can wet the paper to the point where it will cockle. And as long as it's taped down on the edges, which I do, every picture is taped on the edges onto my drawing board, it will always go back. But the problem with the smaller or the thinner papers, they can tend to cockle a little bit too much. And that can spoil the picture. So I would always recommend that you get a thicker paper. And the smoother papers suit me best. Not necessarily everyone else. It just suits the way I paint.
So let's move on to the kinds of brushes you use. Now, I've got a list here of the ones that you use most often with your watercolor work, and these are also made by Winsor & Newton. But would you say that anyone could have any kind of brand of watercolor brush?
Absolutely. It's better to get the student quality or the Cotman range or equivalent. Don't go into too cheap a brush, because you can buy cheap brushes. And if you get those, you'll find that they won't work as well. So you've got to go from student quality or better, I would say. And the Cotman ones we've got are pretty good. I've been using them for quite a long time now.
So we've got the range of brushes that we've got here. I'll read them out for you. We've got the number 6, number 4, number 3, number 1, and a 00, as well as a 1/2 inch flat and a 1/4 inch flat brush. So you've got 2 flat brushes there that you use. Let's start with those. What do you use the flat brushes for mostly?
Oh, they can be used generally for if you're doing skies, particularly. You want a larger brush. If you use even a 6 brush is not really man enough to do a sky, because the sky's got to be done in one go. You can't do a sky in bits. And water is another area where you'd need an expanse. So I use the 1/2 inch brush usually for that. And the smaller brush, that is not necessarily used for that purpose, but it can be useful. I can't really give you an example of it, but there are times, like a tree, for instance, you might want to use it on its side, and you can create an effect that way, a branch of a tree or a trunk of a tree. So you could use the smaller one for that. There's a multitude of uses. Rocks are another thing that can be used with the flat brushes. So it's nice to have those 2 there in your arsenal. Generally speaking, it's not used that much, though. I wouldn't say I use them that much. But it's, if you haven't got them, you can't use them. And when you need them, you'll regret it.
Yeah.
That would be my policy there. So the range of brushes that I've given you there, or you've given out, is good enough to start off with. I've got more brushes because I need different effects, for my own personal use. But generally speaking, I don't use any more than those on the videos.
Okay, so let's talk about the number 6, 4, 3, 1, and 0. Now, those numbers range from 6 to 00. Now, that is to signify the thickness of the brush. Number 6 is the thickest, and number 00 there is the thinnest. And you range from using all of those depending on how much detail you're putting into the picture. Is that right?
Yes, but there's another reason for that. And the larger the brush, like number 6, for instance, it holds more water. And sometimes you need that. So the smaller the brush, the less water you hold, or water paint mix. So you have to work out when you're doing a picture what's best for you for that particular subject you're doing. If you're doing a tree, for instance, and you're doing foliage on a tree, the way I do foliage, you'd use a number 3 brush because it's got just enough paint water mix on it to do a reasonable amount of it. If you use the 00 gauge brush, you'd be forever dipping in and out, and that would be very frustrating. That's just 2 examples, but there's so many with watercolor. So with experience, you get to know how much water you're going to, or how much water paint you're going to need for a particular operation. But the bigger the brush, the more water it holds, and less time you've got to dip it in and out.
Okay. Makes sense. So let's talk about some of the other materials that people might need when they're doing watercolor work. Obviously, you need a pot to hold your water, don't you, Dad?
Well, you certainly do, and I've got a really posh one, but you don't have to have a posh one. When I first started, I just used a jam jar. Something. Yeah,
anything.
That was good. Yeah, you don't. It's just water. That's all you're doing. But if you want to, there are quite a lot of different kinds of utensils that you can get, and water pots. But the one I've got is ideal because it's got a little grid in the bottom of it, so you can, if you want to, you can scrape that on the grid if you want to agitate your brush.
Yeah.
But, don't have to do that. To be honest, any pot will do.
Yeah. So the other thing that you have always handy is kitchen roll in your hand, ready to go. Explain why.
Now that is really important. I mean, I wouldn't do without that. The reason I do that, there's 2 reasons. One is that when you dip your paintbrush in your paint, or in the water and then in your paint, you can just take some of that off if you've got too much on. Sometimes you get a little drip at the end of it. You've got to be careful. So a little bit of tissue can just take that off. So you get just the right application. The other reason, which is more important than all, if you've got a drip on your picture, you can dab it off with the tissue, and that happens very often, particularly with watercolor, because you're wheeling a brush around with water all over a lovely picture you're doing, and if you get a splash on it, it can be awkward. So the tissue is a safety valve for me, and I use it a lot. The other reason I do use it a lot, and people will see, is when I'm doing clouds. I put my blue on the sky, for instance, and then I dab it off with the tissue. So there's another reason. There's so many reasons and so many times, I can't even go into it, how many times I would use that tissue during a production of a picture. So it's very important, and it's so cheap. Goodness me. But it's very necessary, and I always have it in my left hand. So it's to take moisture off the brush if needed and when needed, and then to dab out when needed, and if you make a mistake or drip something that you don't want it to drip on, or you can take it out with clouds. So that it's a very useful bit of equipment, that.
Excellent, excellent. So as people look at the watercolor courses, they'll understand and see that you have a really unique approach to watercolor, Dad. It is truly remarkable and different from what other people will see out there on watercolor. Let's just touch upon just a little bit why your watercolor is so different.
Well, it's very hard for me to say, because when I first started, I just walked into the retailer and said, I'm looking for watercolors. Can you show me your range? And he showed me. And I picked it up, took it home, and started. Of course, there wasn't the videos around. There wasn't the internet to help us at that time, way, way back. So I wasn't really interested in buying books to find out. I thought, I'll just have a go. And I did my own thing. And in doing my own thing, I didn't realize at the time that what I was doing was creating something unique. I didn't realize that until I took it along to somebody and they said to me, good gracious me, this is pretty good. And I thought they were joking. And then they told me why it was. And they told me whatever I did from then on was, don't take any lessons, don't go to art school, don't read any books, just carry on what you're doing, because someday it's going to work out for you. And I took that bit of advice and carried on. It wasn't until later on, when I started doing art shows, that I realized that other people were doing it very different to me. Now, I can't explain that any more than that. It's my own way of doing it. And as the result of all of the work that I did in watercolor, I found people started buying my work, started liking my work, wanted to do it as I did it. But the only other person that I did really follow was A.R. Quinton, and he was turn of the last century. I'm talking about early 1900s, and I loved his style of painting, but it was very detailed. And a lot of the work that I've done has been some of his original pictures, and put my own adaptation on them because I like them so much. So that's the only influence, if you like. But I didn't come across him until later on, after I'd already got this underway, and then realized the similarities between my work and his work.
So if people want to see your approach, this approach that you developed by yourself, then we have these watercolor courses on our website, and we look forward to hearing what you think. And if you are interested in giving it a go, then please check out the watercolor courses. I hope this video has helped to introduce you to some of the materials and some of Dad's approach to watercolor. And if you have any questions, please do get in touch with us on email or via the contact form on the website, and we'd be more than happy to help.